Hey. Yes. Ella, bringing it in. Yes. Rodney. Yeah, no, Hey, Lisa. Thank you for being here. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Lue Douthit. I'm CEO and co-founder of Play on Shakespeare. What the heck is Play on Shakespeare, you might be asking? Good question. We're a small nonprofit dedicated to better understanding Shakespeare's plays in performance. And in performance is key for us here through contemporary translations and adaptations. In 2015, we commissioned a couple of dozen playwrights to translate a couple dozen Shakespeare plays into contemporary modern English. It caused a little bit of a stir. You can't do that. What do you mean by translate? Isn't it in English already, Louis? True, technically. Shakespeare is in early modern English, and the English that we speak is contemporary modern English. This is where the PhD comes in handy. Like human beings, languages change and evolve, and we wondered what might still be graspable in our contemporary ears 400 years later. This is the question about English language that we posed to the writers. It's hard to define what we mean by translate because we did not ask for a word-for-word exchange, which is what usually people think of when they think of translation. The playwrights were focused on language in a very specific way. They were asked to look at moments in the play in which clarity might help in the storytelling. And they were charged with making those adjustments within the framework of Shakespeare's language. You're going to dumb it down. We heard that lament a lot. And we certainly didn't mean to do that, and we don't think that we did. But we've discovered the only way to really describe what we're doing is to demonstrate it. So we've asked some of our favorite actors if they would perform a little Shakespeare and a little translation side by side so that you can have that comparison in your head and see what you think. You ready to hear one? In this scene, we've asked Lisa Wolpe to step into a very important moment in the play King Lear. Lear and his followers have rushed off into the storm and have found some shelter on a heath. It's about as different a situation as the privileged king could have ever had. In a good story, people make decisions and things change. This is the moment in this play when something big is about to change. Listen carefully as Lisa speaks Lear's lines from the Shakespeare text. Note if there's any moment in which you aren't keeping up with what's being said.
Prithee go in thyself, seek thine own ease. This tempest will not give me leave to ponder on things would hurt me more, but I'll go in. In, boy, go first. You houseless poverty, nay, get thee in. I'll pray, and then I'll sleep. Poor naked wretches, wheresoe'er you are, abide the pelting of this pitiless storm. How shall your houseless heads and unfed sides, your looped and windowed raggedness defend you from seasons such as these? Oh, I have ta'en too little care of this. Take physic, pump. Expose thyself to feel what wretches feel, that thou mayst shake the superflux to them, and show the heavens more just.
Beautifully done, Lisa. Thank you. I think I get this, right? You fool, you go in, and I'll follow after I rage at the storm. But why is Lear raging at the storm? To rage just to rage is not dramatically viable. For me, I get stopped at take, physic, pomp. The compressed poetry of those 4 syllables is a shorthand for a huge concept. And yeah, I'll eventually get it, but by the time I get it, I'll miss the discovery that Lear has made. Let's see what translator Marcus Gardley does with the same moment.
Go in yourself. Make yourself comfortable. This tempest stops me from thinking thoughts which are more painful, but I'll go in. In, boy, go first. You poor homeless. No, you go inside. I'll pray, and then I'll sleep. Poor naked wretches, wherever you are suffering the pelting of this pitiless storm, with no roof over your heads, no fat on your ribs, and only rags for clothing. How will you defend yourself against such weather? Oh, when I was king, I should have done more for you. It would do you good, men who live in luxury, to walk in the shoes of the poor and downtrodden, so that you can unburden yourself of wealth that you do not need, and show the world that heaven can be fair.
Well, Marcus has certainly unpacked exactly what is meant by take physic pomp, hasn't he? And yeah, it took more than 4 syllables to do it. But I find it strangely satisfying, and here's why. I don't love Lear at this point in the play. The character has not behaved honorably, respectfully, or even maturely. But in this short speech, 4 major changes happen. First, he tells the fool to go in ahead of him. When has he ever let anyone go ahead of him? 2, he acknowledges the hardship of others. When has he ever acknowledged the feelings of others? 3, he admits that he is complicit in the hardship of others. And then 4th, he turns to us and demands us to be kind. This is a major dramatic change of heart. And it takes a dramatic genius like Shakespeare to put that in a short sequence. From this moment on, I think Lear would like a do-over. Once you know a truth, you can't unknow it. And once you acknowledge that truth, you have to do something about it. The tragedy of King Lear, to me, is because now that he knows he has done wrong, he cannot correct it. Somehow the poetry and rhythm of Marcus's translation keeps me in the flow of Lear's thought processes. The result is, I am now on Lear's journey, and I too will get swept up by what he cannot do. One of the biggest challenges for the translators of very famous plays was, what do you do about the famous speeches? We talked an awful lot about the difference between explaining a moment from a famous speech and irritating people who know the speech really well. It was not our intention to irritate people. In Migdalia Cruz's translation of Macbeth, she sticks closely to it, actually. She decided to choose specific moments within big speeches in hopes that a little bit of adjustment would pop the speech for us. So let's get the Shakespeare in our ears first. Listen as Wayne T. Carr delivers a very famous speech from Shakespeare's Macbeth. Note where you get stopped. We'll talk about it afterwards.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all. Here, then here upon this bank and shoal of time, we'd jump the life to come. But in these cases, we still have judgment here. that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed. Then as his host, who should against his murder shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off. And pity, like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other.
That was great, Wayne. Thanks. I get that Macbeth is questioning now a decision he made earlier to kill King Duncan, who just happens to be a guest at his home at the time. Not good guest-host form, as a general rule. In this speech, he's trying to justify it. And by the end, I think I get that he decides not to do it, so that it does have this nice arc. He starts in a quandary, he works it through, and he decides to do something different. But where in the speech did he change his mind? Let's listen to Wayne embody Migdalia's rendition of the same speech. Listen closely, because it follows the Shakespeare faithfully, and your ear may get tricked into hearing a familiar sound and not necessarily catching the sense. But there's one big exchange that I want you to catch.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could rein in the consequence and seize with his ceasing success, but that this blow might be the be-all and the end-all, here, then here, from this shore to the shallow of time, we jump o'er the life to come. But in these cases, we still must be judged. And so we teach bloody lessons here, which once taught return to haunt the teacher. Even-handed justice moves the ingredients from our poisoned chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. Firstly, I am his kinsman and his subject, strong cause not to kill. Then as his host, should shield my guest from the murderers at my door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his king's power humbly, has been so fair in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued, against the deep damnation of his being oft. And pity, like a naked newborn babe bursting into life, or heaven's cherubims soaring upon the unseen couriers of the air, will blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears will drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which jumps over itself and falls on the other.
Did you catch the big phrase? Return to haunt the teacher. Moneyball. In the original, it's return to plague the inventor. And I can't link instructions to inventor in the original. If I take time to work that out, I miss the point. Somehow I can more easily link teacher to bloody lessons in the moment of hearing it. Remember I was talking about plays and performance, how vital that was to this assignment. And now I know what Macbeth has been wrestling with. He's wrestling with his conscience. Who knew Macbeth had a conscience? 400 years later, our English is more literal than it was in Shakespeare's time. And we get our meaning from word order. So what Migdalia linked between lessons and teacher pops easier in my ear. All we're trying to do is translate conventions from one time period into ours. We love to use the opening scene of Romeo and Juliet as another way to talk about the translation process. Shakespeare works in contrasts, and in a lot of ways that Shakespeare does this is through language. Sometimes the scene is in prose, then the next scene is in poetry. This is also true with other kinds of facts. A scene that's in public will be followed by a scene that's private. A scene that's in daytime will be followed by a scene that's nighttime, etc., and stuff like that. The goal of any play is to get our attention and hold it, or increase it even better, until the very end. As in life, one doesn't hold just one point of view or tone throughout. For tragedy to work, I think there must be comedy for contrast. For comedy to work, I think it also has to have serious consequences. And in R&J, a play which many of us are familiar with, I think a full-on tragedy all the time would not actually be a very interesting event. Once the opening prologue tells us how it will end, the tragedy of it, the next scene needs to contrast that tragedy. Shakespeare wants to work against a singular tone. So the job of this first scene between Sampson and Gregory is to loosen us up. I'm looking forward to seeing how Amy Kim Waschke and Rodney Gardiner do that. Let's see how Shakespeare accomplishes that.
Gregory, on my word, will not carry coals.
No, for then we should be colliers.
I mean, and we being caller, we'll draw.
Aye, while you live, draw your neck out a collar.
I strike quickly being moved.
But I'm not quickly moved to strike.
A dog of the house of Montagues moves me.
To move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou runst away.
A dog of that house shall move me to stand. I'll take the wall of any man or maid of Montague.
That shows thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall.
'Tis true. And therefore women being the weaker vessels are ever thrust to the wall, and therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall and thrust his maids to the wall.
Quarrel is between our masters and us their men.
And 'tis all one. I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I'll be civil with the maids. I'll cut off their heads.
The heads of the maids?
Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take it in what sense thou wilt.
They must take it in sense that feel it.
Me they shall feel while I'm able to stand. 'Tis known I am a pretty piece of flesh.
'Tis well thou art not fish. If thou hadst been poor John. Draw thy tool. Here comes of the house of Montagues.
Colliers? Was that funny to you? I mean, I know by the rhythm of it that it's supposed to be funny, but it doesn't translate, despite Amy and Rodney's best efforts. Thanks for working it, you two. We can always resort to gestures. When in doubt, in a Shakespeare play, let's whip out the gestures. But there's so much more to be mined than that. I mean, there's a lot of sex in this play. Sex can be a contrast to love, so we need the sex. Let's see how Hansol Jung reimagines these jokes in a scene that she describes as being between two bros.
Gregory, I swear, man, we can't be no one's suckers.
Depends on what we're sucking.
But they will succumb to my sword.
Well, you'll suck in your last breath in a hangman's noose.
Not me, I'm quick. Tempt me, I strike like lightning.
Lucky you're not quickly tempted to strike.
A dog of the house of Montague tempts me quick.
To quickly fight or quickly flee?
Flee! Only thing fleeing is my sword from my sheath. I tower over any boy or maid of Montague's.
That proves you are a coward. No real man needs a tower to fight.
True. That's why women being weaker vessels are kept in towers, so then Over Montague's boys I tower, and in his maids thrust my tower.
The fight is between our masters and us, their men.
Men, women, same thing. I'm a tyrant. I'll bleed their men, I'll be worse with their maids, and cut off their heads.
The heads of the maids?
Yeah, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Feel me?
I don't know that anyone has ever felt you.
Any feeler I felt up will willingly testify. It's known I'm a pretty piece of fish.
Oh, it's known you're a pretty piece of fish. Hung dry and salty. Grab your tool. Here comes to the house of the Montagues.
That was super fun, Amy and Rodney. Thank you. I never fail to laugh at the deadpan, I don't think anyone has ever felt you joke. Comedy is hard to elicit when it's just an audience of one, like you watching this video. But come on, did you smile just a little bit more? You'd have to look up the footnote to know that poor John is a dried fish in the original. And so Hansol just used the description to make the joke. What we found is that the comedies were the hardest to translate because the jokes don't always carry over. And you can see how Hansol had to rebuild that opening joke when she realized that we weren't going to get Colliers. In each of these translations, the writers wrestled with the poetic structure of the plays. Their role was to uncover how these plays worked dramatically. It could be said that the most radical thing we did was invite a playwright to be a part of the conversation, which was how they were built 400 years ago. Thank you for watching and listening with me. I hope this presentation has been provocative in a good way. The original charge for the playwrights was to create performable companion pieces. The translations are ready to be performed as production scripts, and they're ready for resources in the classroom and with audiences. For more information, please visit our website at www.playonshakespeare.org. As we say, try it in translation. Thank you.